In this story, we start off with the Joker banging his head on his cell door, and then begin to tell a story about the Penguin face yells at the Joker to shut up because he's trying to sleep. The Joker replying for him to be quiet unless he wants his eyeballs to be chewed up into jelly. Joker then goes on to tell us a story about soulmates and what malicious laughter can do to someone. With a flashback to high school, on the day of a big dance, we see a boy, Oswald Cobblepot, being laughed at. Oswald tried asking Allison if she'd go to the dance with him, but Allison tells Oswald that she'd never be caught with him. Confused, Oswald brings up a note left on his desk with her saying she would go to the dance with him, but Allison was clueless, as her friends laughed because they had pranked Oswald with her joining in as well. We then jump to present-day Oswald as the Penguin in his limo, with women laughing, who are just using the Penguin for their benefit of going to expensive restaurants and clubs, but it would bother him to the point he kicks them out, which leads to them insulting him, calling him a ugly little creep. Feeling alone and seeking something to enjoy, he would go to a crime convention, and while walking through the convention, nothing grabs his interest until something catches his eye. A woman in a cage. She did something no one has done for him before, asking for his help. The next morning we would see the woman waking up to the view of a beautiful sunset before she is scared of the presence of the Penguin with him, reassuring her that he would not harm her and that he didn't buy her to be a slave, telling her that the way she was being treated was beyond savage and that he wouldn't stand for it. The woman, overwhelmed with happiness, would hug and thank the Penguin for saving her, making Penguin feel something he never has before: love. Weeks would pass, and the Penguin was infatuated with the woman, learning that her name is Violet. They've been together for 2 weeks now, and he says how much she brightens up the place before a henchman is thrown into the wall with Penguin, asking him if he's noticed Violet's new decorations while talking about how she's different from all the women he's been around before, like how she doesn't want expensive gifts and prefers spending quality time together where they spend hours talking about his favorite things, his birds, showing that he's so in love with her. He even has her as his computer wallpaper and hasn't thought about crime in 2 days, believing he's finally found his soulmate after all these years. Batman, after beating up his goons, tells the Penguin he will be watching him. A couple nights later, the Penguin takes Violet to a fancy restaurant. Penguin holds her hands and tells her that the past few weeks have saved him and that she's saved him, believing that he would never find someone he could be himself with. But while confessing his love for her, he's cut off by a loud sound of laughter looking over his shoulder. He would see the cook laughing at the Penguin's direction, not necessarily laughing at the Penguin, but it didn't matter to the Penguin. He'd grab his knife, but Violet would stop him, asking him what he's doing. Penguin would tell her it's nothing and to continue to enjoy dinner. They would enjoy their dinner, but that wouldn't be the last of it, as a few days later the building had a new owner, and the restaurant would then be forced to close and fire all its employees. And the day after losing his job, the chef found that his girlfriend had been suddenly deported to Romania, and his best friend arrested for bad stuff with kids, despite his insistence that he was framed. The day after that, a new tenant moved in next door, and began blasting their stereo at all hours of the day and night. The landlord stopped taking his calls, the church the chef liked to go to would be infested with killer bees, and the park he enjoyed sitting to read at would be bulldozed. Then 2 months later, after their initial meeting, he would cross paths with the Penguin again. A night janitor would find him hanging in a bus station bathroom. The day after that, the Penguin was happy to read the obituaries. Violet saw the grin on the Penguin, and it gave her chills because she knows all too well the grin of someone who likes hurting people. She would grab the scrapbook. She saw the Penguin putting newspaper articles in, and she would go through it till she found the article of the chef who hung himself. Wondering what the Penguin has done, she would read more, seeing all the things the Penguin has done. We would then see a flashback of what happened to the girls who played the prank on Oswald. A flock of birds would attack the girls being sent by Oswald. We are then back in the present with the Penguin arriving home. Looking for Violet, he sees her packing her things as she feared for her life, begging him not to kill her, while calling him a monster for all the things he's done to people. He would then yell at her to stop calling him a monster, but she no longer cares. She tells Oswald she's leaving tonight, leading the Penguin to look back at Violet, gritting his teeth, telling her Oswald isn't his name. Back to the flashback, we see the 3 girls beat Oswald with a bat, with them telling Oswald to stay away from girls for his whole life. Penguin would then crawl to his birds, the one thing he loves the most, but when he touches one of them, it bites him, causing him to snap. He grabs a bat one of the girls used and beat every one of his birds till they lay dead on the floor. Crying on the floor, and apologizing for what he did, Oswald would realize he killed the only thing that brought him happiness. We go back to current day, with Oswald apologizing that things didn't work out with Violet and that these things just happen, but that he hopes they can eventually be friends, wishing her nothing but the best for her, before we see him saying goodbye to her in the placemat in a cage. In the end, the penguin got the last laugh, but he failed to realize that the one with the last laugh usually laughs alone.